if you're out there, picking up chicks, that's fine. Wrap your tool. Don't be a fool. 3 minutes of fun. 18 years on the run. Dump your goo. Run like a Jew from the tax man. I got it. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. Hopefully I don't get served with any fucking, paternity papers that I didn't know about. Hello everybody, Terrence Popp here with another episode of Live from the Lair. And what am I going to cover today? Let me think. Oh yeah. Bar fighting, booze, and broads. Winning. Alright, so I went in the Army at 17. I'd taken martial arts from the age of pretty much on and off from like 14 on until I left. I left for the service at 17. Now, I didn't have enough money for the testing for the belts, and sometimes I had to go large chunks of time in between lessons because I ran out of cash because I had to pay for it myself because I was, my mother was, single mother, had no money, or the money she did have, she, spent it on my younger sister. So I figured it out for myself. So that's exactly what I did. And then I went in the service, wound up at Fort Lewis, and I remember once I got my car, I drove down to the hilltop at Tacoma. I think I was 19 years old or some shit like that. And there was a karate school. There was Sensei Robert Edwards School of Ishinryu. I don't know if he's still there. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He'd be 70 by now. But I remember I went in there and wanted, find out, visit the school, because the Hilltop is a bad neighborhood in Tacoma, Washington, or at least it was in the late 80s, early 90s. Because if you want to really learn how to fight and do it well, you learn how to fight in either boxing gym, karate school, or any type of dojo in a bad neighborhood, in a shitty neighborhood. That's just the way it is, because those guys, they go there to learn how to fight, like really fight, not like earn belts and shit like that. And I remember I walked in there and it was pretty sparse, a couple bags. And I remember I looked at him, I said, listen, I don't want to learn any crazy stupid forms. I don't want to learn to use any weapons that I'm never going to fucking use. I just want to come here and I want to fight your guys. What days do you do that? And it was Tuesday, Thursdays, Saturday, or Sunday afternoons. I was like, great. How much is that going to run me? And I think he told me like 30 a month or 35 a month. And I was like, sold. And I bought my equipment. I started showing up, and for like the first 3 to 5 months, they just beat the shit out of me. And I think it's because I'm a white guy and they weren't. And, I guess they looked down upon me to a certain degree. But, come the end of the 4th or 5th month, I was holding my own. I wasn't getting creamed. I mean, I wasn't taking unanswered shots like I was in the beginning. And it was going pretty good. And I was doing those workouts on top of lifting weights and doing my Army shit. And then later on when I went to the Ranger Battalion, doing the Ranger workouts, because I continued this shit up until I left Fort Lewis at the age of 22. And when I turned 21, it was like I was in the second bat by this time. And me and half a dozen other Rangers, we would go out to the bars in Tacoma and Seattle and around Fort Lewis. And priority number 1 was to fight. Priority number 2 was to pick up chicks. 3 to get drunk. That was the order it went in. And I went out and I had some pretty wicked bar fights. Now, when I say bar fights, I'm not talking about, fighting actually in the bar, because only a few times did it happen in the bar. Most of the times, you run your mouth and, then you're like, oh, let's take it outside. And then everyone goes outside and you fight the dude in the parking lot. Now, back then, I only weighed like $170, $175. Yeah, I was like 50 pounds or 40 pounds less than I am now. And, there's, you're just a noob. But the thing is, when you're in ranger shape, like pretty much every day you run like 5 miles, and the days you're not running 5 miles, you're doing like a 12-mile, 8-mile road march, which is really a ruck run. And on top of that, I was lifting weights 3 to 4 times a week. I was benching over two times my body weight. Well over 2 times my body weight, like 340, 350. Deadlifting 1.5, sometimes 2 times my body weight, and squatting 1.5 times my body weight. And I had very little body fat on me. And some of these guys, they want to fucking fight, and we go out in the parking lot. And I remember this one guy had this really thick Southern fucking accent. And he told this girl to hold his cowboy fucking hat, right? And I'm like, okay, here we go. And he was a wrestler, because I could see his ears were all bobbed up. And I wrestled in high school too. And the thing about wrestling is you need to be in like a really good fucking shape to do that shit for any length of time. And I remember, he comes out, he wraps me up, slams me on the ground. We roll around for a while. I roll on top of him. I push off, get back to my feet. He gets back to his feet, except now he's tired, and I'm not. And then I proceeded to like punch him in the face. Probably a good 15, 20 good solid hits. All into the eyes, the nose. Caught him in the jaw a couple times. Dropped him. And I didn't drop him cold, drop him, he gets back up, he's staggering around. And the woman that was holding his cowboy hat is like screaming at the top of her lungs, stop hitting him, you're going to hurt him. Yeah. And I gave the guy, I'm like, hey man, anytime you're done, you need to say you're done. And he wouldn't quit, so I just kept beating the shit out of him. And then finally he sat down for the last time. And the 3 guys I was with scooped me up, threw me in the car, and took me the fuck out of there because the cops were coming. And I didn't go back to that bar for a long time. I think it was like 6 months before I went back to that place. But that's the way bar fighting works. And then there was another one, and this one is in Seattle. And we were shooting pool. I don't remember the place. It was a pool hall, and I suck at playing pool. Right? I fucking suck. So I was just there to have a good time. I really wasn't looking to get into a fucking fight, but my buddy was. So my buddy's running his mouth. We have one other guy with us, and there's 6 of them. It spills out into the parking lot. Now it's 3 on 6, so I have to take care of like 2 guys. Which, you never know what you're getting into when you're fucking picking fights. You don't know, who you're going up against. And one of the guys that I squared up against was like an amateur boxer, and he rang my bell right off the go. Yeah, I caught a jab like right in the nose, and he tried to get me with a hook, and it hit me, but I remember I rolled with it, so you don't get the full effect. And then I remember I staggered back, and he was coming back to finish me, and I started kicking, and he wasn't really on par with the whole kicking thing, because he would jab and he would step off with his, he'd jab with his left and step off with that leg, and then I would just clip it with the roundhouse, the Muay Thai roundhouse, boom, right in the middle of his calf, kick out his leg, he would fall down. 2 or 3 times that, and I quit fucking around, and my head had cleared up enough, and I started throwing combination kicks and punches, and he could not deal with that at all. He was used to just boxing. So I was landing front kicks to the midsection, and I remember I threw an overhand right, and I called the garbage punch right over the top, caught him in the nose. And I remember I reached up with my left, pushed his head to the side, and I threw a fucking forceful chop right behind his fucking ear. That was it for him. He went down. And his buddy had been watching the entire time. Now his buddy talked a big game, but I could tell, you know, because he didn't jump in or help or anything. He was just running his mouth. And so when I took care of one guy, I started focusing on him, and he just ran away. So I didn't have to deal with him. And I went over there and cleaned up the other mess, the other two guys I was with, because they were getting overwhelmed. I got lucky that I didn't have two guys that knew how to fight. I only had one guy that was a good fighter and one guy that was a shit talker. And I remember, you know, picking one guy up around the waist and just, you know, going back for a suplex, and I slammed his fucking head off the fucking deck. He was done. And then the other guy was like scuffling with one of my other Ranger buddies, and I grabbed this dude by the legs. I kicked him in the balls like 3 times. He was done. And then the other two guys decided to fucking break contact, and we got up and we took off. So that was good times. Those were some good fights. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it isn't. But, you know, when I was younger, I had a lot of anger and hatred I had to deal with. And, you know, that was just one of my outlets. So by the time I actually started competing, you know, in the circuit as a kickboxer / boxer, amateur pro-am, and then finally professional, I was 23. And I probably had a couple of dozen, like, significant open, you know, bare-knuckle bar brawls under my belt. Like, serious, not fucking around, you know, legitimate fucking all-or-nothing fights.
Oh, thank God you're here!
Not-So-Sane Man's Guide to the Multiverse takes a former cop collecting alimony and drops him into a world of insanity for shits and giggles.
What the hell are you doing with the money I'm giving you every month?
Salsa. Oh, and booze and hookers.
If you're ready to laugh at the absurdity and cringe at the reality, click on the link in the description to watch Brett William Mauser's Not-So-Sane Man's Guide to the Multiverse right now. All 7 episodes are free to watch on Amazon Prime.
We need some backup.
So, and in between the bar fights, there was a whole lot of like whores and bitches, and you'd be surprised that you know, I'd always ask the question, "Are you married?" And then I would get the no, I'm not, and then, you know, later on down the road, you know, because they always tell on themselves. You find out that, oh, they're separated, which means they're fucking married. And, you know, I didn't fuck around. No, I didn't knowingly fuck around with any woman that was married. There might have been a few that slipped by that I didn't know about. But, you know, if I did find out that they're married, it was hands off, man. Because that's how you wind up on the 2-way rifle range. And I knew that very, very young. There was a lot. It was just crazy how, like, the 9th ID would go out, you know, either on deployment or go to the field. And then, you know, I'd be out at the bars, and they would just be flooded with women, you know, and a majority of them were married. They were just out there, they were fucking basically shopping for sport cock, I guess. And, it was bad. I mean, so, you know, when I was picking up chicks on Fort Lewis, I was very fucking careful about that shit. And, you know, I don't know about how it is today, but back in the day, you know, when I was in my young 20s and late teens, there was no shortage of pussy. Women were throwing the pussy at you left and right. Okay, especially if you were young and in shape and you weren't fucking ugly looking. You know, you didn't have to have money or any of that shit. It was fucking crazy. Now, I had some friends of mine who had fake IDs. I myself never do that shit. I didn't really hang out in the bars until I was, 21. Now, I did hang out in a couple of bars where, you know, you're allowed to be in there, but you can't drink. That was actually fairly popular in and around Seattle, Tacoma. Especially in Seattle, because there was a couple of bars that were, one was an old church that they had turned into a nightclub, and you were allowed in there, you know, at the age of 18, but you couldn't drink, and you had to wear this, you had to have a wristband on, and if you didn't have a wristband on, you had to fucking a 21 and older stamp. And I hung out in there, and I pulled so much fucking shit out, so much pussy out of that place. It was insane. It was fucking insane. You know, I remember I banged a swimmer from the Washington State University. She was pretty hot, big tits, you know, nice chick. A little on the German side, so she was, you know, thicker, but still had a good shape to her. There was I would say she was Irish. I'm not going to say her name. And she was fucking crazy beautiful. In fact, she was basically a prom queen when she graduated high school, which was like 1 year behind me. And I ripped that shit 3 ways to Sunday. Now these women, and I learned a lot of lessons from these women. And I probably should have listened to these lessons, and I wouldn't have married the fucking former slewer, you know, the ex fucking wife whore that I married. But, you know, I was still living in the blue pill world, and I thought it would be different for me, and all women are not like that. And wow, did I fucking get my ass kicked on that one. But a lot of these women, I remember I'd go to the field, I'd come back, and they'd be fucking, you know, I'd hear stories that they were running around doing their same old shit. And I realized that it was just my turn, and my turn was over, and I moved on to the next. And, you know, there was a couple times I got tore up pretty good. There was one redhead that I dated when I was 21, before I went to Ranger School, and she fucking put a knife in my back. That was bad. That was a bad one. And then the Mexican chick, when I was going to college, that crazy Mexican really fucking betrayed me hard, man. And wow. Looking back on it, I mean, the man upstairs had basically filled me in on what the fuck the deal was, and I just wasn't listening. So you gentlemen out there, you need to pay attention to what I'm telling you. Is if you're out there, you know, picking up chicks, that's fine. You know, wrap your tool, don't be a fool. 3 minutes of fun, 18 years on the run. Dump your goo, run like a Jew from the tax man. I got it. Been there, done that. You know, got the t-shirt. Hopefully I don't get served with any fucking, you know, paternity papers that I didn't know about. But if I do, then, you know, they're well over 18 by now, so it might just be a wash. But yeah, gentlemen, these women out there today are no different than they were fucking 20 some odd years ago, 50 years ago, 100 fucking years ago. You know, they've been the same throughout all fucking of human history, back to the beginning. You can read about it in the fucking Bible if you so should choose to crack that book. I'm not telling you to do that, but there is some wisdom in that fucking book, because even if the religion doesn't agree with you, doesn't mean it's not wise. Just saying. But yeah, gentlemen, that's kind of why I do what I do. You know, I learned a lot of the hard lessons the hard way, and I got lucky at a lot of them. I only got hit hard when I got divorced, and that was probably my come to Jesus, wake the fuck up fucking moment right there. You know, when your wife fucking kills your dog, takes away your fucking kids, sets the fucking cord on you, and everyone and their fucking mother lines up to fucking take a bite out of your ass, to include your own fucking attorney and members of your own fucking blood family. Dude, out there, I'm telling you, dudes, it's just not worth it anymore. You know, the juice is not worth the squeeze. You know, and thinking back on it, I mean, I think my priorities were straight, fighting first, because I learned a lot. I learned a lot about human nature. I learned how to handle myself in a scuffle. I learned how to take a punch. I learned that pain really isn't that bad. And I was fortunate not to have any teeth knocked out. You know, I didn't get my fucking nose, you know, cranked up, and my beak tweaked a few times. You know, broke a couple knuckles. You know, had some stitches in my face. My eyes swelled shut. You know, but hey, it's all fair in love and war and a bar fight. Now, my chain of command, you know, they knew I was fucking fighting and doing stupid shit, because I'd show up to formation every now and get all fucking marked up. You know, and they'd ask me a bunch of questions, and I'd be like, listen, man, it didn't happen on post. I slipped and fell. I'm fine. So they would take me at my word. I didn't go on sick call. I just did my shit. You know, and me and the Rangers that we'd go out with and fucking bar fight with, you know, half of those guys, if I wasn't fighting with them in the bar, I was in the weight pit with them in the battalion, and they were either my spot or I was spotting them, and we used to always lift heavy. It was fucking crazy. But that's what we did. You know, that's what you do when you have fucking insane high levels of testosterone, and, you know, you don't really get your hands on a lot of women except for a few days a month when you're not in the field or on mission. And, you know, you fight. What are you going to do? I was 22. Now sue me. All right, gentlemen. I want you to fucking pay attention to my videos. Especially go back and watch the older ones where I do a lot of the math on the fucking dry erase board. Because I realized that a lot of the men out there don't fucking pay attention when you preach at them. They don't pay attention when you're just talking to them logically. Most of them don't. They only really pay attention when you put something on the table of actual consequences, and for most men, that's money. Okay, so a lot of my videos revolve around how much it costs, you know, what this is going to cost you, you know, I even, like the Pimp Tart Wifes and Toots, where I break it down, you know, cost per pump. I mean, who does that? I think I'm the only fucking comedian on the face of the planet that's making fun of that shit. You know, that, hey, that's me. I don't know how long this is because my battery died halfway in, but hopefully it's somewhere around 15 to 18 minutes. I'll talk to you later.